rendering in the cold, guys. So obviously we're talking about, winter time, anywhere sort of before December, January, February, start of March. You're going to get pretty cold weather, damp conditions mostly as well, especially anywhere Ireland, UK, parts of America. These are definitely going to have very similar climates to ourselves. But yeah, this is how I go about rendering in the cold, things that I do, the decisions I make, and why. Basically, the best options is to actually, go on weather forecasts the night before, try and get the driest couple of days, get the warmest weather. Windy's not too bad. Wind will help your situation, help it dry. And again, it's a lot of it's going to come down to mix, what you choose to put in your mix. Scratch coat, your top coat. A lot of this is really going to help, hinder you or help you, basically help you speed up your day. So there's lots to talk about there and lots to think about. Again, similar to weather, it's picking a place to start. Some walls might still be damp from a previous wet day, so you might not want to start there. Some walls might be in the shade. You might want to leave them for a better day. Try and work with the sun in the winter, so it is picking up. So definitely choosing your walls, which walls to actually render will definitely help you. So that's something to really concentrate on. What walls are too damp that just won't dry today, maybe let them sit another day or two. So there's guys that like I said, all around the world, people have rendered in -1, -2, and likewise, when I was in holidays in Spain myself, and there was people out rendering, and I'm walking about in shorts and t-shirt and wouldn't dream about skimming a wall inside, let alone outside rendering walls. And their walls, they've come up with ways, so there is ways and options you have to make it work, guys. For instance, what I've found is that getting it on all as fast as possible. Try and get all your cutting done hopefully around about 11. Get it all straightened. And when I straighten it, yes, I use the shaded edge. If I have it in van, sometimes it's on a different job or I leave it behind, but most times I'll have it with me. But if not, if you get your wall straightened up, you'll have to have the shaded edge. Try and leave it as long as possible before you start rubbing it in, because you will just lock that moisture in. So again, that's where the windy days will come. It'll really help dry them types of walls out. Back to the sort of mix. Less plasticizer in the mix, the better. Some people put a scoop of lime in and no plasticizer, and that helps their gear set up that bit quicker. Not a big massive fan on lime. This job in particular, everything was sort of coated by about 11, half 11, and believe it or not, the walls, some are kind of soaking, the bottom foot's soaking because it's lower, so still managing to get it rubbed. Again, using a diamond float mostly in the winter, and also sometimes a float with nails in it. Trying every tactic in the book, guys. You can use, when you are finishing, when you are rubbing up, you can use papers to try to draw out moisture. And another thing that has worked pretty well in the past is some diesel heaters on certain areas. Just that little boost. You don't want to cook the render, otherwise you can crack it as well. But just that little bit of air, warm air blowing in a damp corner will really, really help you out. So again, similar to what I was saying about dry or wet walls, you don't really want to be rendering over a scratch coat that looks like it's soaking wet. So if you're going over a high suction wall, old black or old red brick, this can help you. Don't soak it down, just let it go. Let the suction work in your favour, because like I say, there's going to be less drying, so you don't need to worry about the key. The suction will help your key as well. You don't need to worry about that as much, guys. It will, it'll actually work to your advantage, that bit of suction. The other thing to think about, is it garden walls? What types of walls? Is it that way? Is it a house? Does somebody live in it? Or is it an empty house? Is it on site? The likes of them are going to be colder. Again, if somebody's living in a house and rendering their gable wall and have radiators and heating going inside, that really will actually help. That will help the wall dry out that little bit. So that's another sort of thing to consider. And again, if we're going to be talking about render, we may as well talk about K-Rend. I have a funny story about that as well. I'll let you know. So K-Rend, you can use accelerators in that. Equally with the mix on satin cement, you can also use accelerators, frost proofers, and some SPR can help tighten up your mix dramatically, guys, and really will pull us out of a hole. There is something called fondue as well that will set like in half an hour if you're doing heavy things, but you could not do a full wall with that, and there's not a mission. It would set in the mixer, so we can't really take fondue into the big basis of rendering. But the funny story with the K-Rend was that once, I might have said this before, I don't know, once I was working for another guy, and we were in the middle of nowhere, real country, and it was cold, it was in winter, but it wasn't too bad, and we pumped on, well, we didn't pump, but my hand applied on quite a lot of K-Rend, a massive gable wall, we double coated it, got it straight, got it flattened in, ready for the scratch off, and things were going really well. I'm sure my boss was over the moon with the progress. Back wall was on, and another wee small wall, so all in all there was 3 walls on, big massive gable, nice back, another wee break. The house was probably about, it was probably just under 50% coated at that stage. Came back the next morning, and it was very, very cold. The labourer was trying to defrost the water pipe that was going to the site. There's nobody living in this house, this is a brand new build, so the labourer was trying to defrost the pipe, sliding bags up, trying to just heat up the plastic pipe to get the water to defrost, and get the top working, get the hoses working, so he could mix more for that day's coating. And we went to rub up the gable, and we had brand new scratching floats ready to scrub it all off. And as I was scratching at it, I looked at the wall, I was like, why is this wall shining back at me? It's very, very strange. And then under closer inspection, when I really stared at it, it was actually the metal was wearing off the float, and it was wearing the float down, took all the teeth off the float. And the same happened to 2 other plasters. And I realised that felt the wall was froze solid, like an absolute brick, froze solid. I have encountered that again recently in something else. I'll maybe tell you about that. It's a bit of a crazy story too. But basically, there was no way that this wall was stronger than concrete. You wouldn't have, even with the electric power float that I have with blades on it, it wouldn't have made a dent. Nothing was coming off. So the guys working for at the time, he phoned his brother, who's an absolute expert in K-Rend, very, very good at it. He actually taught people how to use the products and stuff. He was like a tutor for it, basically. And he had the same issues. They were doing K-Rend up on another site, just outside, just top of Belfast, big massive site, and he had the same issues. Is we're just gonna have to wait and let it thaw out. And I thought, no way, this render's gonna last. This render's not gonna last 4 months. In my mind, I'm going, this is bad. But my boss, being my boss, actually a very, very good plasterer, get plenty done in a day. and taught me quite a lot of what I know. So he came up with the idea, let's just light up. There's some pallets and stuff, and we're in the middle of nowhere. And years ago, he says, let's defrost this, and we lit a fire at either end of the cable wall. The sun's still coming up as well, but this cable isn't going to get hit by the sun at all. The sun's going to hit the other end. So he says, I'm thinking, what if the smoke sort of somehow stains it, Right, we'll not put the fires too close. So we let these small fires, just enough. It was kind of, rolling off around them and stuff, not big bonfires or anything. Like, they're just, a couple of pallets and bags and things, and scrap wood that was laying on the side. Lit that up either end of the wall, and believe it or not, within 20-30 minutes, the wall's actually starting to defrost. Absolute crazy story. And I remember talking to him years and years after it. We met in the B&Q and saying hello and stuff, and we spoke about that job, and he says, how did I actually ever end up? And he said that it was brilliant. He was down doing a garden wall, and believe it or not, he went round a wee sneaky one round, knocking all the walls, and he says we're all solid. And he was down doing a garden wall with the same fella. It was maybe 5-6 years later, quite a long time later. And he says, walls look brilliant as if the day we done them. So sometimes K-Rand and Weber guys, it is quite strong. But that does go to show you there was ice in the top layer of that stuff. Fortunately, we were taking it off, so if that was satin cement render, it might have been a different story. Made it look really bad. But that stuff actually did scrape off. And then the other bit of a strange story was sort of working on a film set. And most times what you're doing there is you're using bonding. Me and a couple of guys, we spread a cable and we had to carve it out like stone, and the same thing hit there. It was quite cold, we were working outside, things had to keep going, and you couldn't carve it with ice was in it, about 10 mil thick inside and outside this. So we were carving it with the chisels and the small tools. We're just sliding off. We weren't getting anywhere fast. Very slow work, very hard on the hands, especially out in the cold. So again, that was another one I thought, this is all going to fall off, this is all going to blow off because the ice is in it. And it actually thawed out, and it was 100%. And that film was recorded, done and dusted now. I'm sure a lot of you might have actually watched it, who knows. But yeah, it's strange that the ice can get into something, still thaw out, and the product actually being okay. But again, me being me, I wouldn't risk it, guys. If it was me, I would try to hold off to the best weather possible. But sometimes it is what it is. You've got 10 outside jobs, you have no inside jobs, you have one inside job and it's done. You have all these outside jobs looking at you, kind of, what do you do? Sit in the house and wait for the sun. Sometimes you do keep going, you have to keep going, you have to keep trying. So, you have to try and earn money. If you're not earning money, you're not paying your bills, things sort of creep up on you. So I'm not one to say don't work, but definitely trying to make the best decisions and make the right call will give you a better outcome, less headaches. Like I have seen me working the wee garden wall at the house and it's snowing, and me just tinkering about because I had free time or something. But I had seen things, believe it or not, that I could put on one day and actually rub up the next day or the following day. It was that wet and it was that sort of cold, not freezing, cold. But again, I would suggest, guys, 5 degrees and rising is good temperatures for rendering. But like I said, it can be done either way. So I hope this helps you out. It was asked for quite a lot, so hopefully it's helped a few guys out. Huh? It's like, no way he works. You couldn't be that tired. If he's working.